Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second part of the second webinar of the Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture Working Groups Learning Series. This event is organized in partnership with the Department of Agriculture. Just to introduce myself, I am VJ, the Communications and Engagement Manager of PPSA, and I will be your host for this afternoon session. Um, to share briefly, and for those who are new here, PPSA is a multi-stakeholder partnership platform for agriculture catalyzed by Grow Asia and the Philippine Department of Agriculture. We work to convene different stakeholders in sharing best practices and discuss various issues in agriculture and strategies for collective action. We are being supported and funded by the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Before we proceed with the session, next slide, please. Yes. Let me share our webinar rules. We are recording this webinar, but rest assured that we will take out the last part, which is the open forum once we publish the recorded webinar on PPSA's YouTube and Spotify accounts. Your mic is automatically on mute, but we will give you permission to speak once we get into the open forum part of the webinar. And also, you can raise your hand virtually using the available Zoom function. And should you have questions during the presentations, kindly type them in the Q&A box. We will accommodate as many questions as we can while considering our time. And if you have any technical issues, you can use the chat box to ask for assistance, or you can also try logging off and on again, or you can email the PPSA Secretariat if this still doesn't work. Okay. To kick off this session, we have a virtual warm-up here, and we would just like to know which sector our participants are from. So if you could just respond to the poll that will appear on your screen to know the dynamics of this session, you may uh, answer to which sector you belong, and we are giving you around 10 to 15 seconds to answer our poll. Oh, okay. Um, as you can see, we have here um, most from the private sector, and the next from the academe, civil societies, and NGOs, and from the other sectors here. I think this is a great mix of participants. So we are expecting different perspectives come the Q&A and the open forum parts of the session. Thank you for your participation on the poll. And now to share with you the objectives of this session, may I invite PPSA's Country Director, Ami Chua, for the introduction. Over to you, Ami.
Thank you so much, VJ. Good afternoon, everyone. To those who have been attending the webinar sessions in the past weeks, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Thank you, and we hope you will also find this session informative and engaging. For those who just attended the session today, mabuhay. Welcome to PPSA's Working Groups Learning Series. We look forward to seeing you in the next learning sessions. We really hope that through this learning series, we find ways to create an agricultural landscape that looks out for the growth of our smallholder farmers and fisher folks. Last week, during the vegetable consumptions webinar, we discussed and majority of your inputs were focused on the need to identify innovations and technologies, partnering with government agencies to scale up and extend existing projects, and of course, going back to the basics to improve farmers' productivity. We'll plot our next events considering your feedback. Thank you. Today, we will talk about vegetables food safety at the farm level. We'll again follow the flow of the learning series wherein we have a situationer. For this session, it will be covered by our friend from the National Crop Protection Center of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And then we'll have a moderated discussion to be followed by an open forum. But today's session will be a little different. We've made it extra special for you as we have more speakers today to highlight two topics related to ensuring food safety. Number one is the MRL, or the maximum residue limit. And number two is the good agricultural practices, or the GAP. The presentations from NCPC, INAVET Nutrition Technologies, and East Seed will be followed by a question and answer portion. And then the next set of speakers will focus on the good agricultural practices, or GAP. the DA-ATI, or the Agricultural Training Institute, KALASAG Farmers Producers Cooperative, through our partner from the local government units and with the help of Jollibee Foods Corporation, and our partner from Khmer Organic Cooperative, who is from Cambodia. You can also ask your questions to those speakers after their presentations. As we always say, your participation today and the inputs to the discussions later would greatly help us as we revisit our strategies and design future knowledge exchange activities. And of course, to help us push for the development of the agricultural sector. I won't take much of your time. I hope you already have your cups of tea and coffee and of course your notepads, as we will have a rich session today. Again, many thanks for allocating your time for this event. We hope that you will find this session useful and engaging, and more importantly, we hope that we can find ways to work together to advance a healthier and food-wise Filipino nation. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Over to you, VJ.
Thank you so much for that, Ami. Okay. Now we are talking about vegetables, since this session is really part of our discussion under the vegetable working group. And oftentimes, as a practice, we usually apply inputs such as pesticides to address crop protection issues. But we also have the maximum residue level, or MRL, that we need to observe as part of ensuring a clean and safe food. To enlighten us about the MRL and the current practices at the farm level, we invited Mr. Jhon Cruz of the National Crop Protection Center. Eric is a licensed chemist who currently heads the Pesticides Management Division of the National Crop Protection Center. NCPC is an extension research service of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He has been involved in several pesticide residues and MRL studies and committees with different national government agencies and multilateral organizations. Um, Eric is also a multi-awarded researcher, one being the Next Generation Agricultural Innovator, awarded by the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry in 2019. Mr. Eric earned his agricultural chemistry degree from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and about to earn his Master of Environmental Science from the same university. Please welcome Mr. Eric Cruz. Over to you, Sir Eric.
Okay, sorry. Ayan, hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, sir, we can hear you po. Go on, sir.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Eric John Cruz. I am from the Pesticide Management Division of NCPC, and I'm going to share with you this topic about food safety and maximum residue limits for pesticides. Next, please. So, for starters, the National Crop Protection Center is a research and extension organization under the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and our main goal is to contribute in food security by providing an effective pest management program. Our center is composed of different divisions, and the Pesticide Management Division is the one that I am currently heading. Next, please. So our division, the Pesticide Management Division, is focusing on research and extension topics such as pesticide residues and its subsequent detection in various crops, primarily vegetables. Also, we are dealing with gap-based pesticide management, insecticide resistance management, MRLs, and risk assessment and risk communication. So you can see here our composition of our division. So next, please. So in our division, our key technologies include the rapid test kit for residues, which was developed way back, I think around early 2000 or late 1990s, and is being used for the rapid detection of organophosphates and carbamates residues in selected vegetables. We also have the rapid bioassay for pesticide residues, which is a technology that was adapted from the TARI, or the Taiwan Agricultural Research Institute. So this is an offshoot of our DOST Picard funded project in collaboration with Benguet State University and TARI in Taiwan. Next, please. So the task that was given to me is to discuss about our center's research, efforts, and interventions in ensuring a safe and clean food in Filipino tables, particularly focusing on managing the maximum residue limits. So in order to give you an overview of these topics, it's mainly divided into non-chemical management approaches and the chemical approaches using the judicious use of pesticides. Next, please. So for our division, for the non-chemical management, we have a previous study by one of our researchers on the use of Talinum SP, which is Philippine spinach, as border plant for the management of EFSD in eggplant. So this is also an ongoing study, but from this study, we can say that certain plants can be used in order to lessen the damage of different pests so that we could use less pesticides and only as needed. And also in collaboration with other division at the center, one of our researchers have this study about entomopathogens for different pests in rice. And mainly for these non-chemical management approaches or studies, this is mainly being studied or conducted by the other divisions in our center. Next, please. So insecticide resistance management, this is one of the main problems in the field, and our researcher in the division have this collaborative project which deals with insecticide management and resistance studies for onion armyworm. And right now, there is a new project that deals with the same topic, but focusing on fall armyworm in corn, so that we could generate effective pesticide rotations for better management of this pests. Next, please. So the main topic is about pesticide residues and MRLs. So I would like first to introduce the concept of residues, which are basically any substances in food, agri-commodities, or animal feed that could result from the use of a pesticide. And this could include the parent compound or the pesticide itself and the various degradation products or metabolites. And these are being considered because of toxicological significance. So if the particular metabolite arises from the use of pesticides, but there is no toxicological significance, that will not be included in the definition of residues. Next, please. About the maximum residue limit, or the MRLs, this is basically the maximum concentration of a residue, pesticide residue, that is legally permitted in or on food commodities and animal feeds. So meaning from the use of pesticides, residues could arise. However, as long as these residues are below or at the maximum residue limit, that could be considered acceptable nationally and internationally. We have to understand that maximum residue limits are based on good agricultural practices and supervised pesticide residue trials, and thus different countries could have different MRLs across different crops and pesticides. This only means that some commodities with specific concentrations could be accepted in some countries, but could be rejected in other countries, depending on their maximum residue limits for pesticides. Thus, this MRL is strictly a trading standard. However, it is also indirectly a food safety standard because MRLs are intended to be toxicologically acceptable. Next slide, please. So our division's role and our involvement with different stakeholders revolves around research, extension, and also we contribute in terms of regulations and standards. And we have different stakeholders ranging from at the national level up to the general public, which I am going to give you an overview for today's presentation. Next, please. So at the national level, through representation in various different government agencies, we provide technical advice or support to the FPA, BOPS DA, and to the NCO, SCPR, of course, on topics concerning pesticide residues. Next, please. So at the FPA, our contribution is by acting as Pesticide Registration Technical Evaluator, or PRTE, particularly for residues. This only means that pesticides, before they are placed in the market, of course, they need to be evaluated at the FPA. And our division contributes by being evaluator for residues to ensure that if residues are present, if any, at harvest of these products, they are deemed to not result to health or significant health effects, as the risk is manageable. So these are the main items or points which are being considered in the evaluation of residues prior to the release or approval of pesticides. Next, please. Also, membership in BAPS-DA Technical Working Group for Fruits and Vegetables. This is a multi-stakeholder, multi-partnership from the government, private industries, and the academe in the development of various Philippine national standards, or PNS, particularly MRLs for different commodities. So right now we already have MRLs for rice, okra, mango, banana, pineapple, and others. Next, please. And membership in subcommittee in pesticide residues. So involvement by providing technical inputs on position papers that needs to be submitted at the national level. Next, please. So for the regional part, we had collaborative training with the Regional Crop Protection Center in Region 2, way back, I think this is last year or 2018. So it involves different staff and also our team at the Pesticide Management Division. And we also have participants from the LGU, or the local government unit of Santiago City, which are agricultural extension workers. So we mainly dealt with pesticide residue analysis using the rapid test kit, and also the discussions about MRL in relation with their food safety program of Region 2 and Santiago City. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so I need to turn off my video because my internet connection is really not that ideal. Okay, so during the training, we conducted a series of different lectures related to pesticide residues and hands-on RTK analysis, because Region 2 and Santiago City have this food safety program wherein the vegetables that will be marketed they are planning to test it for residues, so that there could be an added assurance that there are no residues that are unacceptable or appropriate level that are in the produce. So next slide, please. So this is the RTK station that is stationed, I think, in the market area. And this is in line with their food safety program. So they have this booth or station for testing of pesticide residues in vegetables. This is usually being done at night prior to the selling of vegetables. Next, please. So what they are doing is, after the training, they are already trained and they know the concept. So they conduct the sampling of different vegetables and harvest stations for these vegetables to be tested. Next, please. So the overall outcome, thank you to Ms. Lawrence Gaspar for this slide, is the production of pesticide-safe vegetables in Santiago City. So this is the first local government unit that's adopted this style of testing and labeling of produce in line with the Food Safety Act. And they have this partnership also with Santiago City vegetable growers and marketing cooperative. And I think just recently, some of these products could be available already in Robinson's Place in Santiago, if I'm not mistaken. Next, please. So aside from Region 2, we have this partnership with Region 1 RCPC, wherein they visited us And we have these discussions and actual demonstrations and technical discussions about the use of rapid bioassay for pesticide residues, which is the technology adapted from Taiwan. This is also being used to detect organophosphates and carbamates, but this is applicable not only to vegetables, but also to fruits. And I think Region 1 is already using this technology or planning to expand its utilization in line with food safety in the region. Next, please. So at the LGU and farmers level, so we have this RTK adoption already by Santiago City as shown. And for the RBPR, the first local government unit that will be adopting this RBPR is our very own LGU here in Los Baños. So it's coming very soon. They are already at the final stage of setting up the laboratory, and they will be soon adopting this RBPR to test products in the market and also in the planned trading posts. So it will involve testing both of organic and conventional products. And just recently, we have this DOCP card-funded project, internal control system for conventional cabbage and eggplant production. So this was done in Bugyas Benguet for cabbage production and in Dolores Quezon for eggplant production. So this is partnership between NCPC and the College of Economics and Management at UPLB, together with cabbage and eggplant farmers and their respective LGUs. Next, please. Next slide, please. So here you can see the ICS farm in Bugyas, a very beautiful place up north in Benguet. So this ICS farm, a cabbage farm, and they are applying what we have teach them about integrated pest management and the proper use of pesticides if needed. So we also develop brochures and reading materials for the farmers and conducted several trainings and focus group discussions in order to equip our farmers with growing cabbage that is safe and high quality, and the overall goal of being compliant with maximum residue limits. Next slide, please. So in the case of eggplant production here in Dolores Quezon, we did the same training, and of course we customized it to fit the need of eggplant farmers. And from this project, we are very proud to announce that the produce from this project are compliant with the ASEAN MRLs. So that means that the ICS cabbage and ICS eggplant resulting from this project could be acceptable in terms of trade and food safety for ASEAN countries. Next, please. So in terms of the academic sector, we are involved in providing advice and technical expertise to research projects of students, and also the use of teaching tools such as the RTK in educating primarily students in agriculture about pesticide residues and its detection as shown in this image on the right side. And we are also involved in the work immersion of senior high school students for their future career and for them to have hands-on experience in an agriculture-related field. Next, please. In terms of our involvement with the industry, we have several partnerships with CropLife Philippines, SGS, which is a testing and certification organization, and Jeffcore Laboratories for different seminars and trainings. And as you can see here, the image on the left side, this is the seminar on PHI and MRLs for banana growers in Davao that was conducted by CropLife Philippines and FPA, and our division was the partner organization and resource persons for this seminar. On the middle picture, you can see here our Cambodian trainees, because we have this international training wherein we share our knowledge of pesticide residues, MRLs, and detection of residues to our Cambodian brothers and sisters. So they came here in the Philippines last 2017, I think, and we talk about RBPR, RTK, and pesticide residue related topics. And on the last picture here, you can see our partnership with SGS, primarily equipping our industry partners on extending this information to our farmers and to different stakeholders. And as part of our industry involvement, we also have a vegetable consolidator that uses RTK as part of their quality control. Next, please. So in terms of the consumers and general public, we have lots of various presentations, some of which are shown here, catering to specific audiences or open to the public seminars, as shown here. For example, in this image, on the right side is a webinar conducted by our division in cooperation with DA-ATI. So next, please. And lastly, we believe that we need to learn continuously, so we are equipping ourselves through representations in different international trainings so that we could learn more of the best management practices on what could the Philippines adopt or what we are doing excellently, so that we could better be equipped in addressing food safety and food security concerns. So these are some of the international trainings. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. And our efforts on having these international research visits, which we know from previous slides that resulted to technologies such as the rapid bioassay and visit of some of our researchers in these organizations in Taiwan, which now resulted in our ongoing project about the development of pheromones for the monitoring or initial assessment of fall armyworm in cornfields. So these are some of our continuous education efforts to better serve the public in terms of food safety and pesticide residues. So lastly, I would like to, next please, I would like to share this final slide, one of my favorite quotes, that saying that nothing in life is to be feared and it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less, because there are lots of different informations out there and we need to really understand the science-based process or explanation of this topic, so that instead of fearing everything, we will understand it better to better address our needs. And that is all for my presentation. Next slide, please. So thank you for watching. So if you have further questions, comments, or actions, you can raise them later, or in the future, you can send me an email, or here's the contact number in my office and my mobile number. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sir Eric. That was a comprehensive presentation and information about the MRL and, of course, the initiatives of the government and your agency that are currently being done to ensure food safety. Okay, if you have questions for Sir Eric from NCPC, kindly type them in the Q&A box. But your questions will be parked for now, as we will go to the second part of this session. But before we start with the second part of this session, we just have a few reminders for our succeeding speakers and for everyone. So for our speakers, your time allotment is only 5 to 8 minutes presentation. After the presentations, we will proceed with the Q&A. So if you have any questions, kindly type them in the Q&A box, and we'll request our speakers to respond to them during our moderated discussions. Your mic is still on mute, but we will give you permission to speak during the open forum. Okay. At this point, we will proceed with the presentations on insights and perspectives, including relevant technologies and innovations related to food safety. Our first speaker um, will be sharing about food safety and available technologies and innovations to ensure food safety. We have Dr. Narciso Intal, or Doc Nars for his dear friends. Doc Nars is the founding president and chairman of INAVET Nutrition Technologies Incorporated, a veterinary, animal, and plant nutrition company in the Philippines. Doc Nars currently chairs the Foodlink Advocacy Cooperative and is a member of Seeds Incorporated. He is also a fish, vegetable, and fruit farmer from Minalin, Pampanga. Doc Nars earned his veterinary medicine degree from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Over to you, Doc Nars.
Good afternoon, everyone. My honor and privilege to be a partner of Croatia and PPSA. Thank you very much for inviting me, Croatia, PPSA, for being one of your resource persons or participant. My presentation is all about quantum growth. And quantum growth is a breakthrough biotechnology that provides revolutionary plant enhancements through the combination of cutting-edge developments in microbiology and biophysics. Next slide, please. Yeah, quantum growth, a new way to grow, stabilize plant health, and increase yield and profits for sustainable crop production. Next slide, please. The next topic, part 2 topic, is all about the fundamental concepts and fundamental perspectives that revolve around the technology, quantum growth. It is about a national soil health movement for a regenerative farming agriculture. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Bring back soil health. It is a must. Very, very true. Next slide, please. Quantum growth should be at the forefront in the fight for healing in the land and people of our country with all our minds and one heart. And it is the soil health that is the focus or the central fundamental necessary to revive our land. It is the continued capacity for soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. If we have healthy soils, we have healthy plants, we have healthy people, and healthy animals. Next slide, please. Quantum growth is a new paradigm in Philippine agriculture. It is a strategy for inclusive Philippine agri-industrialization to attain our country's 4 sustainable development goals. Foremost is our food sufficiency and economic, nutritional, as well as our environmental securities. Next slide, please. Quantum growth is basically follows the general principles of natural farming, the natural principle of health, ecology, fairness, and care. Next slide, please. It is the way forward to level up our Philippine agriculture. And the soil solution approach, or the soil food web, which is the essential component of healthy ecosystem, is the one that regenerate our soils in harmony with our plants, with all our animals and man, protecting the environment and increase profits for farmers. Next slide, please. Quantum growth, therefore, is a very basic foundation in the soil food web. Next slide, please. The soil food web consists of an interplay of the first, second, third, fourth, the fifth, and the higher trophic levels. Next slide, please. Quantum growth, therefore, is a bioorganic soil and a plant amendment. It is a revolutionary full-spectrum microbiome. It's a novel biological and ecosystem solution. Next slide, please. Quantum growth is the new frontier in plant technology. It is the true breakthrough in modern microbiology that provides revolutionary plant enhancements through the combination of cutting-edge developments in novel biotechnologies, microbiology, and biophysics. Next slide, please. Quantum growth series were designed to save water, to reduce fertilizer runoff, grow healthier plants, and increase yield. Next slide, please. It is a breakthrough in biotechnology that provides revolutionary plant enhancements through the combination of cutting-edge developments in microbiology and biophysics. Next slide, please. Quantum growth series consists of highly active, naturally occurring microbial consortiums with vegetative microorganisms, including photosynthetic cultures, spore-forming microorganisms, and high-quality organic peat humus extract. Next slide, please. Quantum growth series are non-pathogenic. They are produced in an EPA and FDA-registered facility. They are very safe, they are non-toxic, easy to use, they are biodegradable, and 100% natural. Next slide, please. They does not contain chemical products. They does not contain compost or manure paste. They are not genetically modified organisms or the GMOs. They are not synthetic amino acids. And of course, they are not the hormones. Next slide, please. Quantum growth is a technology. It is not a backyard microbiology. The stability in microorganisms lasts for about 2 to 3 years. The counts or the microbial counts are verified and guaranteed in every culture or bottle. They are consistent since our products are not input dependent. There is no pesticide worry. There is no preparation, just buy and apply. They are more concentrated with very high counts of microorganisms available. Next slide, please. Quantum growth suffices all the plant requirements from top to bottom, from rhizosphere to phyllosphere. They provide all the necessary soil minerals, the macro, the micro trace mineral elements, as well as fixing the carbon and nitrogen from the atmosphere. Next slide, please. Quantum growth is a unique proprietary consortium that features select photosynthetic microbes and natural growth factors that drive plant energy functions. Next slide, please. These are but a few of the many consortia of different species of microbes, specifically bacteria. Next slide, please. Some of the inferred functions and mechanisms of this consortium of organisms are reduction in fertilizer, carbon fixing, nitrogen fixing, phosphorus solubilization, production of antibiotics, degradation of toxic residues, degradation of heavy metals, degradation of toxic elements that are still in the soil. So the functions of different bacteria carries a big role in the soil and plant bioprocesses. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide, please.
Dr. Ansar, just to check, it's the quantum growth VSC slide, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Quantum growth VSC is a wide-ranging microbial consortium, just like the first variant, quantum growth light. This includes the core technology in quantum light, and it does contain also additional spore-forming microbes selected for their ability to break down accumulated organics such as fats, black layer, and detritus. Through this breakdown process, the nutrients within the materials are released and available for plant growth. Next slide, please.
Doc Nars.
Yes.
Sorry, we'll just give you a minute to wrap up the
Okay.
presentation.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay.
much po.
Okay. Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Why we are different? Quantum growth is different because it has controlled multi-stage fermentation with zero dilution, and it has been backed up by extensive field studies. Next slide, please. One of the most important benefit is soil detoxification and improving pathogen resistance. Next slide, please. Increased yield, nutrient storage, seed germination, drought resistance. Next slide, please. Why we are different? Quantum growth has faster kinetics. They're very versatile and with greater range of functions. Next slide. So where and when to use? Quantum growth light is used in average to high organic matter soils. Next slide, please. Use quantum growth VSC in heavy clay, compacted septic or flood damaged soils. Next slide, please, for the testimonies. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. 50-50 combination. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, some of our testimonies, application in vegetables, in lettuce. You see on the right, lettuce with quantum growth. Next slide, please. Another lettuce. Next slide, please. Okay, that's the kangkong, of course, from Israel sheets kangkong. Next slide, please. Okay, pechay. Next slide, please. Yeah, my last picture here shows to you. It shows to you the rice yielder, top rice farmer and achiever, Mr. Pangan, who achieved a 13.1 tons per hectare. He received his top 6 award just this March of 2020. Thank you very much. And that's the final slide. Thank you very much. Sorry for a long presentation.
Yes, Doc. Thank you so much po, Doc Nars, for that presentation. And I think the highlight of your presentation is you presented about the importance of soil in achieving food safety.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Our next speaker is the very supportive lead of the PPSA Vegetable Working Group. Dr. Mary Ann P. Sayoc currently serves as the Public Affairs Lead of East West Seed International. She has 20 years of professional experience in the seed industry and was a former general manager of East West Seed Philippines. It is a Dutch company engaged in research, development, production, and distribution of vegetable seeds. Prior to her stint in the private sector, Doc Mary Ann had a long career in government. She held key positions in the Department of Agriculture as a regional director and executive director of the Agricultural Training Institute. Over to you, Doc Mary Ann.
Yeah, thank you very much, VJ, for the kind introduction. Once again, thank you, PPSA, for having me here. This is now part 2, we were also together last week in the part 1 webinar. Next slide, please. So I will not give a lengthy introduction of East-West Seed. So let me just say that East-West Seed is an integrated vegetable seed company. We do plant breeding and variety development, seed production and processing, distribution, and we provide a knowledge transfer services. We are a smallholder, farmer-centric company, and this is the kind of business model that we have. Of course, with the aim of increasing the productivity of and income of farmers through high quality seeds and better farming practices. Next slide, please. So food safety is a crucial part of food security. We say that having sufficient or adequate food is not enough, but we also have to have access to safe food. That's why I think it was very timely that the food safety law was enacted a few years ago. As already mentioned in the introduction, pests and diseases are threats to food security. So that's why we continue to use chemicals, and other even natural insecticides, pesticides to combat pests and diseases. And pesticide use is part of integrated pest management. Next slide, please. Now, I would first like to acknowledge Jhon Cruz, because the following slides, I used actually Jhon Cruz presentation as a main reference for this slide. So thank you, Jhon Cruz, to the National Crop Protection Center. So there is a healthy push towards increasing consumption of vegetables. But the question we ask is, how safe are our vegetables? And we say here that the presence or absence of pesticide residues alone is not a valid indicator of health risk to the consumer. The risk depends on the levels of residues. That's what Jhon mentioned with regards to MRLs. Food consumption, what's the acceptable daily intake, and toxicity indicator or threshold value. Next slide, please. And what are some of the risk reduction measures? I think this should be multi-stakeholder efforts on the government, good regulatory control, especially on the registration of pesticides. For farmers, good agricultural practices are to be employed. Use pesticides only when necessary. Use registered pesticides and strictly follow label recommendations, especially the pre-harvest interval. Next slide. On the consumer side, consumers also have a bias towards visually appealing vegetables. So they tend to choose vegetables that, have no holes, really perfect. But sometimes this goes to show that there are no holes because there were no insects, but maybe a lot of pesticides were used. Also, buy from trusted, traceable sources. And very importantly, wash thoroughly all produced before consumption. And if possible, plant-owned vegetables in the garden, especially now when the urban agriculture is, I think, widely promoted. And also grow your own vegetables. Next slide, please. Now, what's East-West Seed's contribution to food safety? Through plant breeding, we develop, our breeding goals not only include higher yield and better looking and better fruit quality, but also one of the main breeding goals is disease resistance. So we develop disease resistant varieties. So then, so the use of insecticide or pesticide is lessened if you have disease resistant varieties. The other thing is we employ seed technology. So like seed coating with minute amounts of insecticide or fungicide, because we put that to coat the seed, and this will give protection to the plant, to the young plant during the early stages of growth, and you don't also need to use pesticides. And the other way is, you know, we have our knowledge transfer department, and here they are, they train farmers on good agricultural practices, on natural farming systems. So they are taught how to prepare biopesticides or organic concoctions, and also integrated pest management. We also teach them like simple things like planting marigold as a border plant, because I think marigold also is insect repellent. And we have also partnered with RCPC, especially in the control of onion armyworm, because it was seed also one of the top crops of East West City's onions. And recently, we also partnered with RCPC and BPI on the control of fall armyworm. Next slide, please. So these are just some of the pictures. Now, this is, we give them, it's a farmer's field school, and they do hands-on. So look at like the leads, no, for repelling the insects, and even use of this, how do you call this? This plant, fermented plant juice and organic concoctions. Next slide, please. So the health benefits of a diet rich in fruits and vegetables outweigh the risks of pesticide exposure. Eating conventionally grown produce is far better than skipping fruits and vegetables. This is also related to the favorite quote of Jhon on you know, understanding it more. So fear less if you understand it better. Next slide, please. And then this is a call to action, multi-stakeholder efforts to ensure food safety on the part of the government, strict enforcement of the food safety law, monitoring of banned pesticides, especially by FPA, regular monitoring of pesticide residues in fresh vegetables by BPI. This is the National Pesticide Analytical Laboratory, intensify GAP training and lower the costs of GAP certification. On the part of the farmers, producers, comply with good agricultural practices like IPM, and also on traceability. And on the part of the consumers, we need more consumer education on the proper choice of produce and on food and food preparation. Next slide. I think this is my last slide. So thank you very much for your kind attention. Over to you, BJ.
Thank you so much, Doc Marianne, for sharing with us your insights, and of course, the initiatives of East West Seed about food safety. Now we will move to the moderated discussion. May I invite our speakers, Sir Eric, Doc Nars, and Doc Marianne, to respond to the questions from our webinar participants. Okay. Um, I think we have one question here that is addressed to NCPC, but other speakers may respond as well. The question is there an effect to the crop productivity if we decrease the pesticide level? Is there a safety versus productivity issue here?
Yeah, hello.
Yes,
So
sir.
did I understand the question correctly, that the audience is asking about the effect between productivity and safety?
Yes.
Okay, so basically the use of pesticides is governed by different factors, and primarily there is a threshold or limit, a threshold level in which the use of pesticides can be just an optional use, but other practices such as cultural, biological are recommended. But if a certain threshold is reached, it could be the time to use pesticide as one of the last or later options. So as long as the pesticide is being used according to its label, wherein the label is the law when it comes to pesticide use, there is no expected difference in terms of productivity, but in turn, indirectly, it could contribute to an increase in productivity by decreasing the damage caused by pests and diseases. So I hope I answered that question, unless there are
All right,
follow-ups.
sir. Thank you so much. Other speakers, do you have any insight about it, about the safety versus productivity of crops or of
I
soil,
would
if for that one?
uh-huh. Uh, well,
Yes, Doc.
I would go with what Eric John just mentioned. As I said, we cannot totally avoid the use of pesticides because of the huge threat of pests and diseases. We are a tropical country, a paradise for all this um, pathogens. So, but if we, judicious use and observing the recommendations from the manufacturers, and also observing the pre-harvest, the interval, I think we should be able to um, we should be production could still be, come in an acceptable manner, safe for the consumers. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Okay, Doc. Doc Nars, do you want to respond to the question? Is Doc Nars here? Okay. I think we move to another question right here. The question is, what are the challenges, if any, at the farm level on pesticide regulations? Uh, Sir Eric, do you want to respond to that question?
Hello. So the challenges at the farmers level for pesticide regulations.
Yes.
I think because when we say pesticide regulations, mainly it's the registration and implementation of the use of pesticides. So that's what all about. That's what regulation is all about. So I think that at the farmers level, first could be the issue of accessibility and availability of various options. For example, in the selection of pesticides, because sometimes there are only limited pesticides available in certain areas. So the continuous use of these pesticides with the same mode of action could lead to, for example, resistance. And lastly, I think another challenge is not really a challenge, but more on a constraint is on the understanding really what is written on the label. So it's very important to really understand what is written on the label, as what Ma'am Mary Ann mentioned, the pre-harvest interval. It's very, very important, particularly in the terms of residues. So the ability to understand and of course to follow, really follow, not only understanding what is in the label. I think that plays a big part in terms of food safety.
Hello.
Yes, po. Yes, Doc.
Yeah. If I may ask our expert, Eric. Eric, my worry on pesticide application is non-target organisms like microbes, are greatly affected. Wherein we know that an application of a pesticide would render all living organisms dead. So, as we all know, we must put emphasis on this soil food web, wherein they play a big role in the nutrient cycling and at the same time in the biogeochemical processes that involves plant and soil interaction. Now, if we have a dead soil, we have a dearth. If we don't have the microbes, nothing would be decomposed, nothing would be absorbed. And that's the bottom line. So it's very important that application of pesticides should be well guarded, and at the same time, it must be well emphasized to whoever is handling the pesticide.
Can I,
Thanks, Doc, for that. Yes, yes, Sir
Yeah.
Eric. Do you
yeah, can I just
respond
make
to
a
that?
quick comment regarding Sir Nars' comment?
Okay
So
po.
I totally agree that the soil is a very important factor for plant health and productivity and safety. So in terms of, as far as I know, in terms of the evaluation of pesticides, there is also a topic or registration those years about environmental effects of pesticides, which is in charge with other evaluators. And those are being considered also prior to the registration of pesticide. That includes effect on different environmental compartments, aside from the soil, the water, or the fish, the bees, the earthworms. But yeah, I agree with that. So with the increasing technologies or development of greener pesticides. That is an innovation nowadays, but it depends also on the speed of development and access. But my personal views that is correct, but that is also being accounted for in the use of pesticides, the regulation of pesticides, and the stewardship program of the different organizations. That is my personal opinion, and not the National Crop Protection Center.
Mm. Okay, Sir Eric. Thank you so much po for that and to Doc Nars. We have another question here, and I would like to invite Anton Simon Palo to
Anton,
yeah, to ask the question himself to the participants. Hi, Anton.
Hi, VJ. Hello.
Hi. Yeah.
All right. I would like to address this to the entire panel, whoever feels like answering this question. So essentially, uh, from our scoping studies, we found out that there seems to be a overvigilance on food safety, where it seems like the standards of certain processors are suggesting that blemishes and certain, let's say, minor bruises are already indicators for rejection, and they're saying that, well, if it's not pristine, therefore it's probably not safe, which is also a cause for much rejection and therefore huge loss on one, food loss access, and at the same time revenues for our farmers. So I suppose the question is, there seems to be a movement called whole of crop purchase, which tries to solve these kinds of over vigilance. In your opinion, is this something that can be pursued or should be pursued here in the Philippines, and what will it take for us to do that on a national scale? Thank you.
If I may, I think that would entail a lot of a good consumer education. It could be really one way of preventing food losses or food wastage, but I don't know how easy or difficult will that be to educate our consumers and let them and telling them to not to be not to discriminate against these vegetables with blemishes or even with bruises. So yeah, I think it could be promoted. Also, as I said, it takes multi-stakeholder efforts to do this kind of program. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. Sir Eric, do you want to respond to the question of Anton?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think for cases like this, we need to understand what is the main driver. What drives the preference for this beautiful and perfect, almost perfect appearance? So it's correct. Marian said that it's mainly the focus is mainly on the preference and the consumers' choices and behavior, which drives this market standards. So unless there is a great shift, I think, that unless there is a great shift in the consumer's preference and knowledge or education about the equivalency of quote unquote ugly vegetables, but they are equally or nutritionally similar, we will be having a hard time or difficulty in addressing this problem. But this is of course not really possible to achieve in the near future. And just to share that the driver is the consumer preference, for example, in terms of maximum residue levels or limits, in Europe, fortunately, we do not have these secondary standards. So in Europe, some retailers or shops have secondary standards wherein they are only allowing a certain percentage of MRL prior to acceptance of vegetables and fruits, because most of the consumers prefer that the residues are even lower than the MRL, even though there is no significant difference if you lower the MRL. As long as you are reading MRL, it is intended to be toxicologically acceptable. So that gave rise to another set of standards, which is mainly driven by consumer perceptions and preferences. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Sir Eric. Doc Nars, do you want to respond or
No.
okay. Okay, Doc
Thank you.
Nars. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for our speakers, Doc Mary Ann, Sir Eric, and Doc Nars for responding to the questions, and to our participants for making this session rich in discussion. We're going now to the second set of speakers who will talk about food safety and good agricultural practices. Our first speaker is Mr. Manuel Dimalaluan, who currently sits as the High Value Crops Development Program and Food Safety Focal Person of the Agricultural Training Institute, which is the training and development arm of the Department of Agriculture. Sir Manny has conducted several trainings and seminars on good agricultural practices and techniques in the farm level, recently being the virtual training workshop on GAP for emerging agricultural commodities amid COVID-19 pandemic. His expertise includes urban agriculture, sloping agricultural technology, and code of practice on good agricultural practices for fruits and vegetables. Sir Manny is also a licensed agriculturist and a licensed teacher. Thank you so much, Sir Manny, for having you today, and over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, based on invitation, I was talking about what agricultural practices
Sir, if you could
Hello?
speak louder po.
Okay.
Yes po.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay na? Sound?
Um,
Medyo mahina.
yes, sir.
Hello, sound. Okay na?
Yes, sir. Okay na po. Yes, sir.
Okay. I was talking about good agricultural practices encompassing with the food safety. Based on our food safety law, sabi nga sa ating food safety law, this is an act of strengthening the food safety regulatory system in the country to protect consumer health and facilitate markets access of food and food products and other purposes. So we at the ATI, we are conducting training to the farmers. We are ensuring that the elements of GAP or good agricultural practices is embedded to the farmers, encouraging farmers to follow strictly what is good practices. As of today, at the present situation of GAP certification system, as per BPI records, there are released more than 500 PhilGAP certificates to the farmers across the different regions in the country, encompassing small farms and corporate farms, individual farmers, and consolidated farms, which are cooperatives and associations members catering to the local market, retailer group, supermarket, food companies, establishment, and port uh, input other services. So based on the uh, Food Safety Act or Republic Act 10611, uh, this is very important for us because this will be the framework or the framework from the implementation from farm to fork, the food safety regulatory system. So what are those important provisions that we're going to understand? So first, the basic principle of food safety, which is part of the elements of the GAP. But before, the GAP system or the good agricultural practices have four major components. This is the food quality, uh, food safety, environmental protection, and welfare of the workers. So those are the basis of our food safety. So the basic principles or articles that we're going to understand is these things to consider when evaluating the safety of food. So what are those? These are the condition of use of the food, condition in the food chains, health of plants and animals where food is derived, then effect of production inputs on other health plants and animals, just as elaborated a while ago, the effects or the importance, the use of pesticides in the minimal, on the maximum residual limits is based on the use of pesticides. But as to the farmers, we encourage them like they have to use registered fertilizers or registered pesticides as registered by the FPA. So the other thing that we have to consider is the general principles, things to consider when writing or implementing food safety measures. So what are the responsibilities of food safety? Who are responsible for the implementation of the regulations? So we have to adapt a farm to fork approach to the food safety. Now, on the farm level approach, from the farm level of the farmers, we teach them the different aspect on the elements of GAP. Like for example, the location of the area and the different history of the area. And of course, the source of planting materials, the source of water, whether this is from the river or other streams. And we have to consider also the traceability for this gap. So right now, we have the present situation of the cooperative and private sector in obtaining GAP certificate. For the procedures of GAP certification consist of initial application of the farm to their respective to be held by the DARFOs. And the DARFO will give training to the farm and pre-assessment will be conducted to the farm before it will be endorsed to the DPI for inspection. So those are the process. So currently, there are two ways in which an applicant may apply for certification, either as an individual applicant or group applicant. The total processing is days to have the field gap is only 20 working days. So again, how GAP is contributed to the development of the marketing and agriculture product. PhilGAP certified product is now in a way in the local market, seeing it as the assurance of safe food and quality produce without compromising the environment and safety and welfare of farm workers. Local demand for PhilGAP certified produce is increased. The retailers group, supermarket, and local food industry, such as yung hotel and restaurant, fast food chains, is starting to require PhilGAP certification to our agricultural commodity that is grown by our own farmers. Some importing countries also requiring PhilGAP certified farms of exports, cooperatives for the supply of agricultural commodities. So we have the various monitoring system for GAP in support to the government. As of today, the application of PhilGAP certification is free. Libre po siya, free of charge. Certified farms are being monitored to ensure compliance to the standard in code of practices at least once a year. That was stated on the department circular or department order number sa series of 2018. So this is being done by the BPI inspector, all the monitoring. So PhilGAP certified produce and farms are being recognized by region through various harvest festival and farmers congress with the support of the DA-AMAS. PhilGAP produce now have market linkages and now able to demand a premium price. So BPI also keeps the list of PhilGAP certified produce on hand for demand on exportable product. Then the DA, the High Value Crops Development Program, also prioritize farms aiming for PhilGAP certification on giving out support and intervention projects. We at the ATI, we have 15 regional offices nationwide, and all our centers also conducted training. And we also accredited several learning sites across the nation. In these learning sites are the schools of the farmers to reach the goal towards these GAP certifications. So as of today, based on our food safety law, we have this responsibility not just as a farmers, but this food safety is a shared responsibility from the national government, food business operators, small food eateries, household, food manufacturers. So all the players, there is a saying, we must educate if we are to regulate. If you want to live longer, make every day food safety day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, po, Sir Manny, for discussing initially of course, the existing laws and policies on food safety, the elements thereof, and the initiatives of DA-ATI in promoting good agricultural practices. We will hear you po once we get into the Q&A portion of this session. Okay, our
Yes, sir.
next speaker, yes, okay, sir. Okay, our next speaker represents the City Cooperative Development Office of the City of San Jose in Nueva Ecija, but she will speak about the experience of a farmer cooperative called KALASAG Farmers Producers Cooperative in securing their GAP certification. Ms. Hannah Domingo is a cooperative development specialist who oversees and helps farmer cooperatives towards their development. Because of her work, she was awarded by the Department of Agriculture as an outstanding agricultural extension worker. She had extensive trainings on good agricultural practices, cooperative development, and monitoring. Ms. Hannah, like our previous speaker, is a licensed agriculturist and a licensed teacher who earned her agricultural extension degree as well as her Master of Rural Development degree from Central Luzon State University. Over to you, Ma'am Hannah.
So thank you so much, Sir VJ, for that kind introduction. Good day, everyone. It is an honor to be part of this webinar, and it brings me joy to share with you how one of our farmer group journeyed towards providing safe foods to every table of the family. Next slide, please. Our farmer cooperative is called KALASAG Multipurpose Cooperative, which was formed in October 14, 2008, where its name is derived from the barangays where they came from, Barangays Kaliwanagan and San Agustin. And symbolically, Kalasag in Tagalog means shield. Next slide, please. Kalasag was one among the 3 pilot areas for bridging farmers to the Jollibee supply chain, spearheaded by the Technical Working Group, composed of the Jollibee Group Foundation, the Catholic Relief Services, and the National Livelihood Development Corporation, or NLDC. While the site working group was headed by our very own San Jose City Local Government Unit, where two offices, the City Agriculture Office and the City Cooperative Development Office, worked together in the development of the farmer group, together with the Central Luzon State University for Technical Assistance and Alalay sa Kaunlaran Incorporated, NLDC's conduit for financial assistance. Next, please. KALASAG started with 30 members in 2008, 15 each from the two barangays, and eventually expanded to Barangay Villa Marina, a nearby barangay. At present, they have a total of 61 members. Next, KALASAG produces white onion or yellow granix, red curl, or what we call the red onions, and hot pepper. The cooperative provides production loans, emergency, and education loans to its members. Next. KALASAG sells its produce to the Jollibee Foods Corporation, Walter Mart, Splash, and Nutri-Asia. They were able to supply 687 metric tons of white onions in 2019, a 26% increase from that of 2018, while 24.9 metric tons of hot pepper were delivered for choking and manginasal. With this huge volume of delivery, imagine the number of people who are eating the byproduct of the farmer's produce. And with JFC going global, next, JFC required all its suppliers to be GAP certified by the year 2018. And being farmer suppliers is not an excuse to forgo the process. Jollibee Group Foundation called for an orientation late 2015. From then on, preparations were made for the farmers to be able to pass the certification process. And in March 2017, KALASAG members passed the GAP certification. However, the challenge did not stop from there as sustainability issues were faced by the farmers. They were then again trained to develop their own internal control system or ICS in 2018 and eventually became GAP certified as a cooperative in 2019. Next. Please. This successful journey was made possible through the help of and collaboration of the Jollibee Group Foundation, the Department of Agriculture Regional Field Unit, especially the DA Regulatory, the San Jose City, our LGU of course, and the KALASAG farmers. So how did we make it? Since we are dealing with farmers, we went through the step-by-step process. We made sure that they understood why they need to be GAP certified. After which they underwent GAP training, which was a basic requirement for the certification. And most importantly, get their commitment to undergo the certification. To ensure that the farmers will pass the certification, pre-assessment was done by the agricultural extension workers assigned in the areas and as facilitators of the program. Records, farm facilities were thoroughly checked. They were also guided in preparing requirements for application. Next, please. Also, this was the actual process of the preparation of the application for GAP certification. Next slide. And up until the actual inspection, regular farm inspection were conducted and they were prepared by conducting internal mock audits wherein possible queries from the auditors were anticipated. Next. So this is the internal mock audit. We gathered the farmers by cluster and practiced them with possible questions that will be thrown by the BPI inspectors. So next slide. And this was the actual inspection in 2017, the very first GAP application of the KALASAG farmers. And during that year, next slide please, there were 43 KALASAG farmers who passed the GAP certification. This was taken at this awarding was conducted at the DA regional office in San Fernando, Pampanga. Next. As always, the question of sustainability came out. How could a farmer sustain such practice knowing it requires a lot of time recording and keeping up the farm. With this, the formulation of KALASAG ICS or internal control system, wherein officers were delegated to become inspectors of the members' farm. This is to ensure that farmers will adhere to GAP protocols. And in January 2019, KALASAG became the very first cooperative to become GAP farmers in the entire GAP certified in the entire Philippines and the highest number of GAP passers. Next. So this was awarded in their office at Barangay San Agustin with the DARFO3. So with this, next slide please. With this, a lot has changed on the farmers' practices. They learned to adhere more to GAP protocols and knowing by heart the importance of providing safe foods to the consumers because of the GAP, the farmers learned to organize their chemical storage, use protective gears, and provide comfort rooms and rest areas for the farmers. More importantly, they learned to practice record keeping and proper waste disposal. Next. But KALASAG would not have been successful if not for the collaboration of the Jollibee Group Foundation, our local government unit, and the Department of Agriculture Regional Field Office, and of course the farmers themselves in maintaining their GAP certification. The commitment, the passion, and the dedication of these institutions have brought safe foods to all consumers. So that's our experience in the local government in bringing about food safety to the farm areas. Thank you and good day. Hello, sir.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Hana. I think from that standpoint, it is really important that our farmers are being clustered to achieve higher income. And of course, they also have opportunities to be trained through private sector assistance. All right, our next speaker is not from the Philippines, but she is so much willing to share the experience of his company with the Filipino cooperatives and enterprises. Mr. Tum Nun represents a Cambodian cooperative called Khmer Organic Cooperative. It is a social business enterprise established in 2014 with the Ministry of Commerce in Cambodia by working along the whole agricultural supply chain from the farm gate to marketplaces and working close relationship with farmers and society in the rural areas of Cambodia. Mr. Tum is the partnership and business development manager of this company who leads the partnership, business development, financing, fundraising, and marketing of the company. He is a co-lead of a number of working groups of PPSA's counterpart in Cambodia, which is the Cambodia Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture. Thank you so much, Mr. Tum, for having you here, and mabuhay from the Philippines. Over to Mr. Tum.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Tung from the Khmer Organic Cooperative in Cambodia. And first of all, I would like to say thank you very much to CPSA and PPSA for inviting me to be a guest speaker in the vegetable food safety learning session today. And actually, we are very happy to share, like the food safety here, from Cambodia perspective. And, before starting to share and brief about the, how vegetable food safety in Cambodia solution, I would like to introduce, our company a little bit. Actually, Khmer Organic Cooperative is a social agribusiness enterprise in Cambodia. We are working along whole value chain from farm gate to the marketplace. And we actually partnering with farmer cooperatives and farmer in the rural area of Cambodia. And we actually provide the food option to all consumers in Cambodia by bringing the real healthy food and healthy fresh produce in Cambodia. And our sales channel, we have our own shop. We also supply our fresh produce and other agricultural products to supermarkets and green shop, catering service, and hotels here in Cambodia. And we would like to share, some business approach we are working here to promote, the vegetable food safety. Actually, we Khmer Cooperative, we are working focus. Number one, we focus on agricultural inputs because agricultural inputs, that is very important and playing the key role to provide technical assistance, not only the seed or fertilizer, but also, they are working, to provide the farmer cooperative with a technical assistance to promote the organic agriculture or good agricultural practice agriculture in Cambodia. And we currently cooperate with those some company who are promoting organic agriculture. For example, they are selling organic fertilizer or organic pesticide, bio control agent, things related to the organic way and technical to the farmer, especially for our farmer cooperative to apply. And the second, we actually promote the food safety improvement for our vegetable. Here we are improving food safety of fresh produce through capacity development and best practice to farmer producer group or farmer cooperative, and especially all relevant business partner, and those technical including appropriate power handling practice, personal hygiene education, food contamination protection, and we also develop like the internal control system management and recording system based on the food quality standard checkpoint and food safety for farmers. And we do a lot of like consumer awareness on food safety issue in Cambodia through radio or newspaper, Facebook, or YouTube workshop and educational event, or you can say like the national exhibition event in Cambodia. We try to promote on that, for the public awareness, yeah. And the third, we, Khmer Cooperative, we focus on product standard and certification. And right now we already passed and success with the EU and USDA international organic standard already for our produce, especially for our, agricultural cooperative or farmer cooperative we are cooperating with, as well as with our own farm. And we also not only the organic, but we also, promote like the national good agricultural practice, we call it CAMGAT in Cambodia. And as well as with our packing house, we are compliant with the GMP and HACCP standard as well. That is very, very important, yeah, for, with the quality of product assurance. And here, in Cambodia, we also have our own organic farm. We can say like the learning and sharing agricultural practice for farmer cooperatives in Cambodia, especially for all the stakeholders that want to learn, about how to practice real agriculture here, yeah. And we also try to promote with the cold chain management and development as well, because it is a part of, like a food safety protection as well, because we need reliable facility and clean facility for our packing house and storage as well here in Cambodia. And we also, try to promote and build the farmer cooperative with the, the collection point need to be, comply with the GMP food safety standard, requirement as well. Yeah. And even though, in Cambodia, we still have like some more challenge with, in vegetable food safety sector. You may know that, here in Cambodia, we are lacking of like the food safety policy and law need to be developed by the government. We are in the process, but not yet, like well implemented. And the second, food safety awareness is still, limited here. So we need like more time to do more public awareness for, especially for our consumers. Yeah. And food hygiene and safety, like the rural people have, limited access to clean and safety and continuous water supply, especially the waste management. And it can be, affect from like the climate change issue as well, because we see that, pest and foodborne disease, happen on the crop. That's why the cooperative or farmer difficult to cope with those disease. So, or insect, this is the problem as well. And lab analysis here also too expensive, and with the capacity also equally limited. And in Cambodia, we also, have a very limitation human resource for food safety and quality assurance. That is, it's still a problem. And we see that based on our business case, the more implementing vegetable food safety, the more investing in production, and more, this is the more people mindset that we need time, to try to make the people get understand clearly about the food safety issue. Yeah. And here we test our, the real quality produce, especially for our vegetable in the market, and we see that everyone cannot be afforded to buy our real set organic vegetable here, because we see that a lot of people still go to the wet market and they buy, vegetable. We can say sometimes the vegetable, import from neighboring country here. It is still a problem with the market segment currently as well. Yeah. And the last one is about the, safe agricultural input, especially, the input company who are promoting the organic waste, is still limited and expensive here. For example, like the biocontrol agent, if the farmer cooperative want to buy and use, but the biocontrol agent input, it seems, still expensive, that the farmer, it's difficult to, they have a limitation with the afford to buy and use for the organic farming system. Yeah. And this is, some issue happen in Cambodia. And I want to highlight the, during the pandemic, COVID-19, and right now we, in Cambodia, we are facing, like the flood. We have too much rainfall here, and actually it affects to the, the farmer cooperative farms almost, in some province in Cambodia, especially the production province, yeah, here. And anyway, we recognize that the government also, they are interested, and they have put more commitment, like to promote good agricultural practice and national organic standard policy in order to improve, vegetable sector to boost productivity, quality, and safety as well. And for our company, currently we also expand our contract farming with the farmer cooperative, which we, it is also contribute to the pandemic response as well as expand our organic farm in Cambodia. This is very important. And Khmer Organic, we also improve our sales channel during the pandemic difficulty. We are working with and cooperating with the delivery agency, as well as we try to promote the online sale or e-commerce sale for our company. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've finished. Yeah, finished for them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Tum, for sharing your experience in food safety gap in Cambodia and, of course, the current practices and situations there. Now we invite our speakers, Mr. Manny, Ms. Hannah, and Mr. Tum, to respond to some of the questions posted by our participants. Okay. I think the first question is addressed to Ms. Hannah. The question is, given the COVID-19 situation po, where many restaurants and fast food chains are closing down their branches, which unfortunately includes some Jollibee stores, what is the effect of this pandemic to Kalasag's production and overall income? Miss Hannah?
Okay. So we have the pandemic, the deliveries of Kalasag was greatly affected actually. We have a target of 800 metric tons for this year, but then Kalasag was only able to deliver 300 metric tons because of the pandemic. They were really greatly affected. So for now, the production, they're still preparing. Some farmers are afraid to take a risk in planting onions because there is no sure market at the moment. But with the help of the Jollibee Group Foundation, we are trying to level the situation where we could help the farmers. So we still have regular, we conduct through the initiative of the JGF, we conduct regular sessions with them and planning so that we could address the the production issues this coming planting season.
Mm. Okay po. That's unfortunate to hear po, Miss Hannah, but I think really the private sector part in helping the cooperative is really important in this time.
Yes.
Okay po. Po. The second question is addressed to Sir Manny
Okay.
of
Hello.
DA-ATI. Po.
Yeah.
The question is, yeah, ito po yung question. We recognize that currently the number of GAP certified farms and co-ops are not that significant. What is the plan of the stakeholders to increase enrollment to GAP or to increase the compliance of farmers and co-ops to GAP?
Okay. The ATI is in coordination with the local government unit, try to access those farmers who are willing to have GAP certification. So we'll provide them that proper training as being done by the Ma'am Hannah Domingo as stipulated in her presentation. Those are the process that they are going to undergo. And then, by the way, this GAP training is not a basic requirement. This is a requirement per se. A requirement to have GAP certificate. Kailangan may training muna. So yun yung pinaka-requirement siya. Hindi lang siya basic. So for the farmers, they wanted to avail, we are trying to have support from the local government and from the regional field office. Since this GAP certification is free of charge, so they are just preparing their land and have the letter of intent as to give them proper training and all the requirements being provided by the LGU and the regional offices. So both local and regional offices, including the national office, are encouraging them. We have full support for them so that we can have such number of GAP certified farmers, especially for smallholders.
Mm. And the gap certification po is, as you mentioned, is free po?
Free of
Tama po
charge,
ba?
yes, free of charge. Free of
Mm,
charge. The GAP certificate is free of charge.
mm.
It
Okay
is
po.
only valid for 2 years.
Okay. Okay. So renewable po siya. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay po.
renewable within 2 years.
Mm. Thanks, Sir Manny, for that response. Now, I think I have one question here for Mr. Tum.
Yeah.
If you could respond to this question. The question is, how are you coping up and continuously adhering to the practices and regulations in Cambodia, given that we have the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you able to hear the question?
Yeah. I hear.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, in Cambodia for the COVID-19 pandemic, actually we also have some issue as well in the supply chain management. As the case already happened here in Cambodia, that the first and severe case happened. The government decided to lock down. Especially the Phnom Penh city for 1 week. And during that time, actually, we are also difficult to transport our production from the production site to our packing house in Phnom Penh. But during that time, we also talked to the government, for the like the agree business private company like us, we are allowed to transport our product. Still transportation our product from the farmer cooperative, yeah. And we actually keep our transportation as normal. And during that time, we also try, to serve our Cambodian people, especially the people in the Phnom Penh city, they can access, enough, vegetable and fruit for their consumption during the pandemic, year. And we try to cope with, for example, we are cooperating with the, the delivery agency. We deliver our product to their home. We try to promote the online sale during pandemic. Yeah. And right now, the situation here, it seems better than before. Yeah. We try and we can gathering and we can have like a direct meeting with the farmer cooperative or stakeholder over there. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Tum, for that response. I think Doc Mary Ann has some question for
Yeah,
this.
yes, yeah. Thank you, Vijay. I have a question for Manny of ATI. Now, I'm glad to know that
Ma'am.
there is no more fees, no, for GAP certification. My next question is, um, does ATI accredit private companies or other service training providers actually, because I believe that ATI cannot reach all the farmers in the Philippines who would really like to get a gap training. So as I said, we at the knowledge transfer team at East West Seed, we also give training on good agricultural practices. But does ATI accredit this
Yes, ma'am.
training providers?
Actually, ma'am, since the beginning of GAP in the Philippines is free of charge. Actually, free of charge since before. The ATI right now is encouraging those learning sites to be accredited by the ATI, since this will be the extended farm school of the ATI. So the various training to be conducted by the ATI is also conducted by these learning sites all over the country. Yes, ma'am, we accommodate private sector, individual or group,
Okay.
for as long as they are willing to undergo those evaluation of the area and of the project.
Mm. Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for the speakers and our participants for the rich discussion today. Again, we would like to thank our speakers for your valuable insights and sharing. We hope to stay in touch and continue our discussions and hopefully collaboration in the future. And we would also like to thank our participants for their questions and active participation today. Thank you also for staying in the session as it extended. Lastly, before we close, we would like to invite you to the succeeding webinars of this PPSA Working Groups Learning Series. Next slide, please. Our schedules are um, flashed on the screen. Yes. Yeah, we have our next session is on the outlook and opportunities for the Philippine corn industry. You may register by scanning the QR code or uh, please anticipate the release of further webinar announcement for these succeeding webinar topics. Again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you all in our next webinars. Keep safe, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.